Hello, my name's Katie Richards, and I will be doing a case staffing today. So, for the purpose of this case staffing, I'm going to refer to my consumer that I'm talking about as Mike. Now, this is not his real name, but I'm not saying his real name for confidentiality purposes. Additionally, I will be talking about my internship because you guys kind of know where I'm at with my internship, but there's a residential unit that this individual lives at. And I will be referring to it by a different name than what it's actually called. So I will call it Brown Tree. Um, so Mike, the consumer I'm going to be talking about, is a 37-year-old white male. He was divorced in 2013. He has two children and currently has no contact with either of them. He has a very strong religious background with Pentecostal. Um, but at this point in intake, he's been unable to really participate. So he has an interest in attending AA and NA meetings. He has no job currently. His highest level of education is 11th grade, and he currently lives at Brown Tree, which is a residential unit. So that's a 24-hour care unit. So the thing that is kind of unusual and complicated about Mike's case is that he came in and was referred for serious mental illness. So that is schizophrenia. However, mixed with that, or just as a symptom of that, is a very long standing um, alcoholism. And we actually did a genogram together, and alcoholism, runs in his family, goes all the way up to his great grandfather. And it's passed down through the men in his family, it seems like. And interestingly enough, so is very deep psychosis. So, although Mike lives at Brown Tree, he is the only one at Brown Tree that's also part of substance use program at our facility as well. So I think that it makes it a much more complex case because although he is at the residential unit that is traditionally very heavily mental illness and has a lot of developmental disabilities, functioning disabilities, he's actually very high functioning, probably like 99% of the time. However, when he experiences a large amount of anxiety or something like that, he kind of switches into this mode that is very not high functioning and is very kind of dangerous to live independently. So I'm going to run through his assessment fairly quickly just to give you guys a good idea about kind of how he showed up here. So the very first indicator of the behavioral needs section was psychosis, which I already kind of talked about. And he had made reports that he had washed his face in a toilet and drank shampoo because he wanted to help clean out his stomach. Now, he did this while he was living in Richmond State Hospital. He reported he was sexually preoccupied, walking around naked. This again is at Richmond State Hospital, masturbating in general areas and making lewd comments, as well as inappropriate touching females. So he stated he had not had psychosis for 1 year, but if you look at the documentation from Richmond State Hospital that we got as the referral source, that definitely contradicted that statement. He also was rated 3 in impulse control. He was put into jail from stealing alcohol from Walmart. After coming into the facility, he broke out of Brown Tree. So he climbed out of the window of the residential unit 3 separate times, would walk to Walmart, break in, well, not break in, but go in, and he would just like break open an alcohol bottle because they have the little locked things on top of them, and would chug it and then go hide in the woods behind Walmart. And they found him on 3 separate occasions. I think the thing that's been really complicated about him, especially, is that staff members see him as this very high functioning individual. So he has a lot of freedom that a lot of people at Brown Tree don't have. Like, he can kind of walk around the entire town whenever he wants to. He almost is seen as someone that helps the other residents. So it's kind of combating this, wanting him to have rights and to be able to live a very happy, healthy life while at Brown Tree, but also wanting to make sure to keep him safe and protect him. So there's also different things about grabbing police officers, spitting in the face of one of the intake specialists at Cummins, not the intake, the front desk specialists at Cummins, as well as police officers. So he took a PHQ-9 for his initial, and it reported that he was severe for depression, and he has previous suicidal ideation and attempts. And then the GAD-7 for anxiety, he scored a 12. And they stated he had a flat affect. Now, whether that's due to anxiety or schizophrenia, it's kind of hard to tell. So his primary substance abuse is alcohol, and in individual therapy between him and I, he will kind of relate alcohol as a way to bring out the Antichrist inside of him. It's a very religious experience, and it's very much intermixed and tied in with his psychosis. It's not that sometimes he's schizophrenic, sometimes he's an alcoholic. They very much are combined together, and they generally happen around the same time. So when he's starting to have more experiences of psychosis, is also around the times where he breaks out and gets alcohol. So he reported that he doesn't have any sort of trauma. His risk state wasn't too high. It really is, his baseline is very high functioning, very low risk. And then he gets to a point where, almost it's very hard to tell when it's going to happen. But he gets to this point of he's 100% not okay. It's a very switching on a light bulb. So he has issues with transportation, and he was recommended for employment specialist, life skills, medication management from the psychiatrist, lasting recovery after completing IOT, which he has now completed. This is the third time he's completed it, but this is the longest he's gone without kind of busting out. And that kind of brings me to his kind of cultural competence. So I think when we normally think of cultural competence, we think of minority, people who are, different ethnicities, or people who are disabled or LGBTQ. And in his instance, it's kind of the impact of growing up in a household where alcohol and substance use was kind of abundant, as well as psychosis being normalized. So he will say things like, my brother and my dad see all the same thing, and to him that's a validating factor. So it's understanding, kind of not really arguing with him, but just understanding kind of the world he comes from and trying to approach him from that direction. So one of the kind of big policy things that we went through with him is going from IOT to lasting recovery, and he's gotten to a point where he's in welding classes now. He's doing a lot better. He has got a sponsor who will drive him to AA and NA meetings. He goes to both because he does have experiences with narcotics in the past as well. And he is at a point where I think with most residents, especially at Browntree, you would discharge him because he is very high functioning currently and hasn't had any of those instances of trying to break out, having severe hallucinations in several months now. And it's kind of the limitation I think I'm coming across right now is that it's kind of when you get discharged from Browntree, they throw you into an apartment complex that is not regulated at all. They expect you to go out and get a full-time job, deal with your own bills, have complete independence, get a car, and you still have your life skills specialist that comes maybe for 1 hour a week, but it goes from 24-hour care to come in for your appointments a couple times a week. So you'd have one appointment with me, your therapist, one appointment with your life skills specialist, and that's about it. So for me, I see this limitation of just because of the way he presents, I don't know what to do. I think a limitation that we have is I wish like the Goodwill or something like that in our town, we could partner with them and have him work like part-time. However, we currently don't have that. And so that's kind of why I'm seeking guidance or resources regarding this situation, because I do think it's very specific. So I really want to thank you guys, and I look forward to receiving all of your feedback. Thank you so much.